What if we had an enemy that believes that he's actually doing the right thing and that the player is doing the wrong thing? And that opened up so many opportunities for new stories.
Come brothers and come sisters, come weary and come strong, come meet the man who reaps the...
What you see with Joseph Seed is very much an archetype of a destructive cult leader. He's very self-obsessed, he's very ego-driven, he feels that his message is the most important message and the only true message in the world. And he is very charismatic, very magnetic, and yet at the same time he has no real empathy. If people suffer, if they're hurt, if the group causes them pain, in his mind, he doesn't seem to be affected by it. So what you see as a destructive cult leader is that he seems to have no conscience. And many mental health professionals have described destructive cult leaders as sociopaths, psychopaths, very narcissistic, and you see that in the portrayal of Joseph Seed. And the actor, Greg Brick, he just nails it. The way that Joseph Seed talks is very reminiscent of many cult leaders that I've dealt with.
Come elders and come children, come wisdom and come fire. You gotta see how strong you'll be when you're free of all desire. Our country made a promise, but you cannot trust a liar.
I'll give you just different aspects of Far Cry 5 in Joseph Seed. They call him Father. There was an infamous cult leader, Jim Jones, responsible for the deaths of almost 1,000 people in 1978 at a cult compound in Guyana, in South America. They called him Father. They always called him Father. They have aspects also of Paul Schaefer, who led Colonia Dignidad, which was an armed compound, very heavily armed, in Chile at the foot of the Andes. And very much like Joseph Seed, he drugged his people, but he gave them all a tranquilizer so that he could better control them. Very similar to Bliss in Far Cry 5. And there have been compounds in the United States that have been heavily armed. For example, David Koresh and the Waco Davidians. And also there was a group in Montana at one time, Church Universal Triumphant, which was led by a leader that was called Guru Ma, or Mother. And she had a compound, they had underground fallout shelters, they had gun turrets. So a lot of things that you see in the game that you may say, wow, how could that ever happen? It's happened. It's historical.
So with the Father we said, what if they're a true believer? What if they don't believe they're the bad guy? What if they have the gravitas and they have the magnetism to bring you into that? And what was really hard for me was that it takes a lot for me to believe that somebody's going to be able to convince me to join their cult. It's not necessarily something that's believable. So we set the bar really, really high. And we tried for a long time to find different actors to do this, and we couldn't do it. And started to get worried about it. But all the while, people are saying, where's the Father? When are you going to find the Father? And we're freaking out a little. So one night, we've been casting the net really wide. I get a call. They say, Dan, come over here, watch this. I walk over to the computer. There's a little screen there. And there's Greg Brick, the actor that we have playing the Father. And he begins to talk about the story that we've written for him. And it was one of the most haunting, real, honest, and within 30 seconds I was like, not only do I believe that this guy could talk me into joining a cult, I could believe that it felt like a family, which is exactly the kind of thing you want. The hair on the back of my neck went up and I said, this is the guy, this is the guy. So we brought him in, and we already had the other actors for the other roles. It created the second part of the problem, which is, okay, we like him, but how will the other actors respond? Will he be able to offer that same level of gravitas, that same projection of authority, and be able to have the other actors? And we're all holding our breath. Is this guy going to be able to do it? And the actor who plays John begins to act. And Greg just quietly stops him and says, "Shh." And he walks over to him and he takes him by the back of the neck and he brings him close and he puts his head on his head and he begins to talk to him. And we watch as it's very clear the father's in charge and everybody goes, "We're okay."
He's a true believer. He really believes that what he's doing is absolutely the truth and right. Doomsday is coming, judgment is coming, and he's going to save the world. And that makes him even more dangerous than a leader who doesn't really believe, because that type of person may, modify their behavior in order to keep the money rolling and stay in power. But someone who's a true believer, like Joseph Seed, can go to any length in the name of his truth. He feels completely justified, vindicated, no matter what violence he becomes involved in. What he believes to be the truth is what he stands for. And in that sense, he's really scary.